All right, St. Louis, like take it morning. It's a beautiful Friday morning out here in Florida, of course. Nice and brisk. As you can probably hear, the birds are chirping. I don't see any squirrels running around. Maybe they are somewhere hiding out. But I'm going to talk just a few minutes about some things that I think are important. But before I get into what I think we should talk about, I think we need to begin to understand that the mind itself has not evolved. And as a result of the mind not evolving, the mind has not the ability to understand at the depthness in which it is subsequently capable of understanding. In other words, the mind is so far from the truth. And unfortunately, those people that we elect as politicians and leaders have the same mind. In other words, they're no different than you. The blind are leading the blind. In other words, you may think these people's ideas are great and one to be heard. And believe it or not, they might be of some significance based upon where you live. If you live in darkness, of course, you're going to agree that that's probably what you need to represent you, because it's the same mind. Now, once you leave darkness, you're going to understand that you were living a lie. And not only were you living a lie, those that were teaching you were living a lie. And the reason they were living a lie, not intentionally, is because of the fact that their mind hasn't evolved. Think for a second. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to come up with this analogy. If I have a computer, the computer is relatively an old computer, back in the 1800s, we'll say, versus now the 21st century. That computer in the 1800s is not going to be as sophisticated and as powerful as the one currently in the 21st century. So as a result, it's not going to give me the answers as fast as I need the answers. But then again, at the same time, I don't know what I need, because if I'm back there in the 1800s, I'm thinking what I know is what I need at the time in which I know, until I grow and reach a level, meaning now I'm in the 21st century, and understand what I knew back then was incomplete. So what I'm saying to you, what we know right now in the 21st century is incomplete. The politicians are incomplete. The world is incomplete. The system is incomplete. Think about it. Gasoline. We're utilizing gasoline that's taken from coal. Once they manufacture it or do what they need to do, we put it in our cars, and as a result, the exhaust excretes the poison and it gives us thrust. The question is, where does the poison go? It's not perfect. It's not a perfect sound. It's not a perfect level of energy. There's a residual value of poison that's coming from what's causing the propulsion. So where does it go? It stays in the system. It's just like everyone living inside a balloon. You have all these minerals on Earth, and we need to literally cause these minerals to do certain things. So we have to bring them together with some kind of concoction. We got our physicists, scientists, chemists, biologists that knows how to bring certain subatomic particles together to create fission or fusion. So as a result of bringing them together, I'm going to cause certain things to happen. Electromagnetism. I'm going to allow you to utilize certain things, semiconductors, transistors. But what I'm doing is I'm actually producing heat and friction. And the reason I'm producing heat and friction is because I have not reached the perfect state of that material. Once the perfect state of that material is reached, there will not be any residual friction and or heat or pollution. We, unfortunately, are illiterate. Now, many of you don't necessarily agree with me, and you can't even perceive what I'm saying, because we've been taught to believe that there are certain levels of schools. You got the Ivy League schools, MIT, Harvard, Yale. You got to have a certain ACT, SAT score. You got to take the LSAT in order to become, or go to law school, etc. Then you got to take the bar exam. Then I'm assuming the teachers have certain exams. You got to go through certain academies, such as the Bureau and SADEA. You get all these different types of competitions. So as a result, it's going to separate the intelligent ones from those that are not intelligent. But the question I have for you all If you're all living in a system, the balloon, and subsequently you're taking from the balloon to become your teachers and educators, you're only going to remain in the balloon. You can't exceed beyond the level of mind that's the smartest person in the balloon. That's no different than Einstein, Isaac Newton, Elon Musk, Nikola Tesla. These guys are considered the intellectuals, but at the same time, they never left the balloon. So as a result, the things in which they're actually coming up with, in which we applaud, are flawed. And the reason they're flawed, because they have not yet been able to reach a level of perfection in order to take us out of this hellhole, darkness. I know I was going to talk about something earlier, but I had to go as my spirit lead me. We are in trouble. And it's obvious that we are, but unfortunately, you don't know what anything is beyond what you know. So subsequently, you're having a good time. Backing that thing up, having a good time, having sex, acting a damn fool. But you fail to realize you're literally on a trajectory towards the grave, death. Yeah, you had a good time last night with your boo, doing the things that you do. But at the same time, let me ask you a question. When that matter and flesh got together with that other flesh, was there any antimatter taking place where you are now producing a level of pure energy? No, it's both negative and negative. Negative sound and negative sound creates more negative sound, creates more poison neurons, more death, a life expectancy of 60 to 70 years old. And subsequently, when you leave that house, is it possible that something can happen to you because you're full of negative energy based upon what you just did? It's much deeper than you all think. We have been deceived. And not only have we been deceived, we're being deceived. Pandemic, I would imagine, started back in the early, since the world was created, we were going through pandemics. Now, subsequently, they're saying, okay, now we're going to do away with the mask. So we're going to go back to the norm. But the question is, have we learned anything? Everything remained the same as it was in the beginning. We don the mask, take the mask off, don the mask. That was even during the Spanish flu, during the Black Plague, same thing. Mask, take it off, mask. The question would be, or I would like to ask, what are we doing to save our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren? What the hell are we doing? The children are depending on us. They don't know anything. They're expecting us to teach them, but how can we teach them and we're fools, ignorant, sad? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to fight for mine. Noah is growing up. I'm going to fight and make sure that not just Noah, his generation, that they understand the things that they need to understand in order to become who they're predestined to become. It's not a slave to this damn system. This system is straight from hell, darkness. You got black against white, white against black, policemen against citizens, and everyone has the same undeveloped, illiterate mind. We need to focus on strengthening our mind. Once we strengthen our mind, we can now build something that has never been built before. We're building darkness. Many of you think you're going somewhere. You're not going anywhere. You can gain this whole damn world and lose your mind. And that's pretty much what's happening now. Give you that big house, 6-bedroom, 3.5 car garage, etc. That Porsche or whatever, that Mercedes parked out front. You have nothing if you have not a developed mind, and you're lying to yourself. You're on borrowed time. I'm telling you. You're damn right. I wasn't going to go here, but I'm going. And the reason being is because it's important. We have been deceived. Not only that, we've turned the Bible from Genesis to Revelation into fables and stories. Your pastors are blind. They have not a clue that they have not a clue. Intellectually unastute and illiterate. Not just them. Not just your pastors. Your CEOs, your leaders are technically they're illiterate. Now you're thinking, okay, well, why are they illiterate? Because we're still on the earth. Ask yourself, how many planets are there? 8 planets? Where are we? Number 3, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, go all the way up to Neptune. The question is, how long does it take the Earth to circumference the actual moon, the sun, as they say? 365 days. How long does it take Neptune to go around the sun one time? 165 years. That lets you know the further out we are, the more power we possess. But what people really don't understand is this. There's nothing outside you. Those planets that we seek with a telescope are not outside of us. We're looking within ourselves, seeing something outside of ourselves. We are so dumb and illiterate. And as a result of us being so illiterate and unintelligent, we're dying because the mind itself hasn't reached the level of strength in order to repair itself. The mind needs to repair itself so it can literally stop the trajectories of the laws of thermodynamics, entropy increasing, chaos and disorder. Ask yourself, how many people shot in St. Louis yesterday? Chicago, New York. How many people were raped? How many people were victimized? Not just Chicago, New York. What about Africa? How many people are being killed? How many people are suffering from starvation? Hair is red, stomach is bulging from bugs and insects inside. This is crazy. But yet we walk around here smiling, acting a damn fool as though everything is fine. Everything is not fine. Until we reach the higher level of awareness in which we're capable of reaching, nothing's going to change. Now, get back to the Bible. From Genesis to Revelation, six books in the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Let me get all of you to understand. All of you that are so religious and hypocritical, stay with me now. We're going somewhere. I'm hot, big time, because I was once lost. Didn't know for 20, 30 years, following these pastors. They hooping and hollering and everything appeared to be normal and everything appeared to be good. And subsequently, I started to preach. And the reason things were the way they were, because my mind was so undeveloped. It was like I was a slave, a servant, didn't know it. Blind, just like you are, didn't know it. So as a result, I was on my way to the grave, failing to realize that something could have eventually happened to me as it relates to some form of cancer or some type of infirmity, because my mind wasn't powerful enough to fight that cancer or that infirmity due to the fact that I was following deception. Many people within the system is following deception, so as a result, they're prone to possible diseases because they don't have a strong mind. They're following something outside themselves and not necessarily strengthening what they need to strengthen, which is their mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Seek ye first the kingdom, which is the mind. The people that are interpreting the Bible from Genesis to Revelation have not a clue of what they are interpreting because they're blind. They're blind. They might sound intelligent because you're illiterate. But once you reach a higher level of intellect, you're going to understand you were following fools. Educated fools. And it's sad. Now, let me go back because I don't want you to leave on this note. I want you to know that I'm here to encourage you. I'm not here to break you down. I'm here to tell you that you must dust yourself off, get back in this game, dismiss the things that you were taught, or just weigh them with what you're learning now. And eventually your mind would wire itself to understand that you didn't understand. And as a result, you will now be able to grow beyond depression, frustration, anxiety, and pain. Because the older you get, the more depression, because you don't have the power, the immune system to break the depression. But it's not old. Your cells are mutating. It's the mind encoding everything around you that creates form in the fabric of space and time. It's not age as you say it. It's age and time was basically, I'd imagine, brought about based upon the fact that it looked like we can come up with a device to measure how long it takes to get to point A to point Z, or how long this person lived, or what stage of cancer. So we got a time, and it's a universal time in which we all use, so that became time. But in all honesty, time does not exist in the micro. Let me explain. In other words, if we're talking about time, you don't necessarily know that time doesn't exist because you're dying within the system where you dwell. In other words, because of the conservation of energy, cause and effect, you're dying. Subsequently, that becomes the time. You can't even think beyond the fact that time doesn't exist at the micro level because you hadn't yet broke out of the system. Once you break out of the matrix, you'll understand that you can literally reverse time or stop it. You can stop time because it's an illusion. But you don't necessarily know it's an illusion because you're playing to the same music as the illusion. We got to get this thing. We have to get it. Greater is he that's in you and he that's in this dark world. We must get this. We must get it for not just us, our children, our grandchildren, those that are orphanages, those that are homeless, those that are living in the alley, those that are in prison, those that have been victimized, those that are hopeless, those that are drug addicts. We have to get this. We got to get it. We can't get caught up in the arrogancy, pompous, look at me, look at this. You are nothing without a perfect mind. I don't care how much material value and wealth you have. The church itself has deceived the masses. The pastors are making merchandise of the people. And you don't mind seeing your pastor making $100 million, T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar and Joyce Myers. You don't mind seeing it because you think that's how it's supposed to be. That's a lie straight from hell. Darkness. Let me ask you a question. Those pastors that are making all that money, is that disease going to stop? Based upon what they're preaching, they still dying of cancer. They still died of coronavirus. If they had the 411, they wouldn't have necessarily been dying because that antimatter within them would have would have literally destroyed the matter, the flesh. Subsequently, it would have became all spirit. So you tell me they know what they're talking about. Joel Osteen. It sounds good, tickling you. That's what it is, tickling. As I said before, I don't tickle at all. Now, you can listen to what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to follow me. I don't need no followers. Only thing I want is the truth. And damn it, I'm going to fight for the truth, because I'm going to do what I can to make sure my grandson, my children, your mama, my mother, your family members come to the realization that we never understood and we're following deception. So I wasn't going to go there, but I go as the Spirit lead me. But more importantly, I want you all to understand, I do love you. I really do. That's why I come on often. And I'm not going to stop, because we're following deception. We're following deception. And the reason we're following that deception is because we never knew the truth. Once you begin to know the truth, you can't be deceived again, because your mind is now operating at the speed of light. When they see you, they're looking at the Father, which is the truth, Alpha and Omega, first and the last. And in this season, we're going to take that mountain. Shout out to my grandbaby Noah. Granddaddy, love you, son. Continue to listen to your mother and father. And Catherine, you and Winter, continue to grind. Oh, Dad got you. Continue to grind. Shout out to Zion. Dad, love you, sweetie. Continue to do what you do. Gabe, Walter, and Danielle. Shout out to Florida. Shout out to Alabama, as well as Georgia. Kathy, how you doing out there, girl? Shout out to Chi-Town. Tanya in the house. Shout out to the Bahamas, as well as New York. Also St. Louis. Also Virginia. I want to reiterate. I want to say this once again. I'm not looking for friends. I'm not looking for friends. I don't need friends. I need the damn truth. May you all have a wonderful weekend. And remember, this is our season to take that mountain. And that we shall. God bless.